What up, everybody? It's Aaron here with Victoria. We are here to talk about another haunted location. So you picked it again, since you love this area. I'm starting to notice. Where are we talking about today?
We are talking about Edinburgh Castle in Scotland.
Ooh, so this was built in the 11th century, I believe.
Yep. The
So
majority of the castle is over 900 years old.
Oh, that's incredible. I can only imagine the history that's, comes with all of this. So basically, guys, we're going to talk about the history and then we'll go into the hauntings that we have. And then at the end of this, we'll let you know if we do believe it's haunted based on the stories and stuff we have heard. So why don't you take it away? Because I mean, basically, I know it's 11th century. It was sieged, what, like 20 something times or something like that. It's like the most sieged castle ever.
Yep. The most sieged castle ever. It's seen everything from Henry VIII. It saw, oh my gosh, it's been through so many things. Like, it's crazy. So it's not in its original, it's not in its original form now. It's been added on to and changed like 100 times over
Hmm.
as the different royal families have gone through. Um, One of the first kings that lived there, I believe it was King James.
Ooh,
He built the oldest part of the castle, and it's the Saint Margaret's Chapel. That's actually where his mother, a statue of his mother, is there, and I believe she's actually interned there. She was. I don't know if she's still there, but
okay.
she was actually considered a saint.
Wow, that's kind of cool. My mom's a saint. What do you got? I don't know, man. I
Right.
guess.
Um, so around, I want to say 1510,
Mhm.
King James the Fourth actually commissioned a building of that, which was the Great Hall,
Right.
and then it's seen all kinds of things go through there. So many kings, so many queens, so many like royalties have gone through, and it's just gotten so crazy. There's
Yeah.
actually hidden tunnels
Ooh,
underneath the castle.
yes, and we'll get into those too because there's some stories with those. And I do know,
Oh,
like you
those are
said, the the history behind it because this castle has been sieged. Like I said, I think it was 21 times. It was the most sieged castle ever, and this saw everything from the Scots fighting off the British to the time when the Scots eventually joined the British army and helped fight off other invaders. This thing has
and it was
seen a ton of
also
battles.
home to the Mary to Queen Mary of Scots.
Yes, and it does house the Scottish crown jewels, I believe, in one of the wings as well.
Hmm.
So I mean, there's so much history, and then the entrance, which is technically guarded, well, by two statues, a very famous Scotch. I believe it's who was it, Braveheart, essentially. I can't remember his name now. All of a sudden, I just drew a complete blank on that.
Oh, are you talking about the Trader's Gate?
I think so. Where you walk in, but that's supposed to have the two Scots right there. I can't think of his name. Is it William Wallace and
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Robert the Bruce, and William Wallace. There they are. Could think of the names all of a sudden. It just came to me
Yeah.
finally. So
Robert the Bruce was originally a traitor, or it wasn't him, it was his father that was the traitor. He's the one who actually gave away William Wallace. Robert the Bruce, after everything was said and done, turned against King Edward the Longshanks.
mhm.
I don't know, it had something to do with Longshanks. Uh, he actually turned against him and let the Scottish people into battle,
That
and they
was the
actually
Battle
won.
of Buckingham, Buckenburn or something like that. But
It's
Bannockburn.
Bruckburn or
I'm terrible with names, and I've said this in my
oh
other show. I am
and
not
I
good at
and that's
pronouncing
because
any
it's my
names.
favorite time period.
Whatever.
Bruckburn.
We'll go with that. Go
Yeah,
watch my other show. I will tell you I butcher all names.
I'm the same way. Uh,
It's terrible.
okay. So the Edinburgh Castle is usually it's actually used as a stronghold and
Yes.
actually has the only working cannons in Scotland.
And the other side note to that is at 1 p.m. every day, they do shoot a round off to basically essentially let the ships know where they are. It's now just a tradition more than anything, but they
Yep,
would shoot these rounds off to let the ships know the time of day. And so they knew at 1 o'clock every day when they hear that gunshot, that means it was one. Uh,
yep,
they also have, what is it? A one of the cannons that was donated to the Scottish Army was, it's like what, 750 pounds, I believe, or something like that, and it actually shoots stone cannonballs. Shoot,
yes.
yeah, stone cannonballs. I said that right. I think that's really amazing. They have it there, and they showed like the size of it. I've seen it in some pictures. Hopefully, and you can look those up. It's just, oh my gosh, I could imagine trying to move that thing with, probably like 20, 30 people trying to push that around.
Yeah, yeah, no, it takes like I believe when it was King James, I think it was King James. Hold on. One of the kings, they would have to haul it around. It would take 30 carts because
Exactly.
he was really into fighting.
Yeah, and I was reading it took 150 pounds of gunpowder to load it. And I'm like, by the time you pack that thing and get a round off,
It
like,
was a giant cannon named Mons Meg,
there you go.
installed in 1457.
I mean, it's just like, I get the power behind it. Like, don't, I'm sure you get hit by Mom's Meg right there. You're not gonna live. But by the time you
Oh, you'd be
load that,
obliterated.
yeah, but by the time you load it, I think most of my army could be at your doorstep by then. And that was the
I
cool thing I
mean,
saw.
yeah. See, but
Um,
I think the way they did it was that they would set off, and this is just the way my brain works, but they would set off to smaller cannons
yeah.
in order to buy time to load the Mons Meg. I believe
Oh
that
yeah.
would probably be the best,
Yeah. I
way to go
mean,
about it.
that thing is just, what's the military saying? Shock and awe. That's, yeah, it hits, it's going to do damage, but
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to get hit by it. I mean, these things weighed where is it? Some of Meg's large gun stones weigh around 330 pounds. So a 330-pound piece of rock essentially flying at you at, I don't know, I'm not going to do the math behind this of how fast stuff moves, but you're not going to live through that. Nothing's going to live through
Yeah,
that.
no, it's crazy.
um and that's what I think is really cool. They had these defenses, and then the other cool thing is there's 5 gates you had to get past in order just to get into the lower part of the castle. You're not even in the castle yet. You're still like, you're not even in the courtyard. I think you're in the lower levels, they said, of the castle, so you still have to mount your way through the castle to get where you want. So you enter the first level, you're in a pillbox still, so you have to hope the guys aren't going to kill you still. It's
Yeah, no,
just
the way that
insane.
Edinburgh Castle is built is it is massive.
Yeah.
And it's just level after level of just stone, and it's almost impossible to breach. It
Yeah.
was breached though by a Scotsman named Murray and a handful
Mm.
of Scotsmen. And they actually took just rope, and climbed the sheer side of the mountain.
Yeah.
They climbed that and used the pathway of the rocks to silently get in and take back the castle from the English. It was actually pretty cool, like
That's amazing.
old school Black Ops.
Right? I mean, and that's what it took to get in, really, because like you said, it's so massive. Like, where do you start? Like, we try to siege this castle. I mean, and that, like they said, it was the most siege castle because there was no way to get in. There was nothing to do. It's like, okay, well, we're gonna sit out
It was
here. You sit in
it
there.
was built in a very tactical position.
Mm-hmm.
When it was first built by I believe it was a Norman king, William the Conqueror. There we go.
Yes.
He was William the Conqueror. He was actually the first person to start building on that piece of land. And
Hmm.
it started out just like a round fortress.
Yeah.
And it just grew from there. But it was built there for tactical reasons because it was just rock and then water. There was
That's
no way
insane.
that an incoming force could attack from the water.
Yeah.
and the Normans were descent from the Vikings. So it was like one of those tactical decisions that was just, it was pure genius, but it was William the Conqueror, you know?
Yeah.
So as
That's
time went, each king that took over just built on and built on. King Henry the Seventh, I think it's,
mhm.
or the Eighth, was really well known for building castles, luxurious castles.
I don't know. I wish I could have seen it like in its original heyday, like what it just originally looked like before all the add-ons. Like even like now, I still want to go see it because
Yeah,
it houses so much. There's you can go do tourist attractions there and stuff. You can go do
you
tours
can.
and all that.
They have the original mantle where Henry the Eighth had was King Henry Tudor, and I believe it was the eighth,
Mhm.
has the one room that is painted with the rose and the thistle, which
Really?
was it was the joining of the English and Scottish families through marriage, and it was his sister that he married off to a Scotsman,
Mhm.
and then he married a Spanish princess, which was um, Catherine the Aragon, and that was his first wife. She was
Hmm.
a Catholic. She was a Catholic princess from Spain. They were married, but she never produced any male children. He only had
Okay.
one daughter from her. And eventually, that's when he met Anne Boleyn. Anne Boleyn is actually one of the spirits that people say that they've seen in Edinburgh Castle, because that
Ooh.
is where she was beheaded.
Ooh. So
The, the
let's kind of
Edinburgh Castle has a really, really bloody past.
yeah, and let's go into that. So, we've given you a little bit of the history. So now let's go into ghost things. I want to comment, like taking a step back from her first. You said yourself there's a network of tunnels, and hundreds of years ago they were trying to map these tunnels, and they send a piper boy down to go ahead and help map them and figure them out.
Uh-huh.
And from what I was reading, they followed the sound of him playing the bagpipes through the ground because, we didn't have technology back then. So they were following the sounds until all of a sudden the sound stopped. And once the sound stopped, they don't know what happened to him. They sent a rescue team down eventually to go look for him, and they have never found his body. So they say now on quiet nights or days, whatever, no, there's not a lot of traffic noise, you can still hear these bagpipes faintly, almost like he's still playing them.
Yeah. There was actually a study done in 2001
Hmm.
by a Dr. Richard Wiseman. A he was actually skeptic. He was a skeptic,
Hmm.
and so he didn't really expect a whole lot to come from it. He
Right.
actually brought in 240 volunteers who had no idea of the background of the castle.
Okay.
None of the castle, none of the area, the tombs, nothing. And he was actually really shocked about what they found. These people were led in groups of 10 throughout different parts of the site,
Hmm.
and some of the reported experiences were like sudden drops in temperatures, shadow figures. A lot of them felt like they were being watched. One reported having a burning sensation on their arm,
Yes, I heard that one.
and the unseen presence touching their face, and some were feeling like somebody was tugging at their clothes. Some people actually saw full-on apparitions.
See, that's insane. Like you said, no one knows the history, so these people wouldn't have been able to use past experiences to say, "Oh, okay, here's what happened." Um,
There's a one girl went into the vaults, which the vaults are crazy. What you were talking about, the little boy with the bagpipes.
mhm.
Uh, I think the reason why, if anything did happen to him, which I mean, they never found him, so there's a very good chance. But that the vaults were actually used during the time of the Black Plague.
Yes.
They actually had locked people into these vaults so that they would die to
Yes.
stop them from spreading the virus, or to stop them from spreading the Black Plague. So
Right.
a lot of people died in those vaults. Like it became
Oh
the
yeah.
resting place for a lot of suffering.
And that's the thing, like we said, this is been under siege, so hundreds of thousands of people have died from that. This is house plague people. This was also, there's dungeons in here. People, I'm sure, were murdered or died in those dungeon cells.
Yeah,
There's a
there's
lot.
actually this really interesting thing that I was just watching. There's a Netflix documentary on the British castles, and there were the Douglas boys. They were uh, in line for the throne. The king was too young to take up the mantle, so he had two advisors who were keeping it for him,
Hmm.
and they wanted the crown for themselves. It was actually I want to say one of the King John or King James, one of the two. I can't remember the name right now, but he actually was being raised by two men, and they were very vicious. He had
Hmm.
gotten close to these two boys, and they were actually his cousins. They were the Douglas boys. The two men saw these boys as a threat to the crown, as to the succession.
Hmm.
So one night they call it the Black Dinner. One night the Douglas boys are invited for dinner, and during the dinner, all of a sudden the servants bring in the head of a black bull on a platter.
Okay.
This was actually the signal, right? So all of a sudden the two boys, and they were like in their teens. They couldn't have been much older than 13 or 14 years old.
Hmm.
They're snatched up and they're dragged outside for a mock trial, and they're both beheaded. There's like they're just gone. They were, he killed them. They killed them on false charges that they were trying to overthrow the prince that was supposed to be king, or
Yeah.
and they put them to death. And they've actually reported seeing their ghosts in the dining rooms. Like it's pretty crazy. So many things like that have happened. I mean, the different queens that Henry VIII put to death, he was very, very vicious. There's like a huge there's been so many deaths and so many murders. There's been people that have been poisoned. Like there's it's a whole other spiritual ball game in that castle.
Oh yeah. And see, I know there was also one that they haven't seen him in a few hundred years, but the drummer boy that would play, they would hear these drums from what they believed to be a ghost boy before a siege would happen or an attack. That's when he would show up. So they have seen him too, and he was actually has been quoted as missing a head even. So we don't know much about him, but they said they haven't seen him for a very long time because, well, there's no wars going on or anything. So they don't know if he hasn't signaled to whoever is quote unquote guarding the castle right now that there's anything happening.
He's kind of like a harbinger.
Yeah, almost a harbinger of death at that point, even. Well, I guess more war, but yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, I have chills. Uh,
and see, that's where I'm like, okay, that is really interesting. I mean, we have never seen him again. They haven't heard from him again. Like you
there
said,
hasn't
there's
been a siege on that castle in hundreds of years.
exactly. I mean, we're talking the last battle I've probably seen was World War II, and it wasn't even that close. I don't think. I know they shot the 1 o'clock
It
cannon at it.
actually survived. It actually survived being bombed
Did it? Okay.
by
Yeah, I saw that the 1 o'clock gun was used, and that was the only time it was used was to help shoot the planes down from in World War II. So it's interesting, that I don't know. I'm wondering if he played then and no one heard it because of all the bombs and gunfire and stuff. So who knows? Maybe he did play it, not too long ago, and we just didn't hear it.
I
Um,
know at one point some of the lower levels were turned into soldier barracks.
I believe that. I mean, it's insane.
It's as a matter of fact, I think it's still a functioning barracks if I
Oh
remember.
wow. See, and that's the cool thing. Like, I mean, this castle is still. I mean, it's beautiful. They keep it up really well. They do the construction on it, and they're fixing it. And they said there was even a time when during one of the reconstruction phases of this castle, some of the construction workers were afraid to work on it because the ghosts were even messing with them, and they were quoted as hearing things and seeing apparitions. And it's like, these guys are not here to investigate; they're just here to do a job and leave. And it's crazy that all these different accounts happened with these contractors or these construction workers, I should say, and they're still seeing it. And it's like, dude, this is
There's
insane.
actually there's actually been known that whole work crews will run out because they get scared. Like this is a highly active spot. It's a hot spot for paranormal activity, and I can see why. I mean, who knows how many people have actually died there? There is
Exactly.
no definite count.
I mean, you really can't. I mean, no telling how many of them are even just quote unquote buried in the walls, kind of thing. With those five gates. I mean, imagine you're coming up thinking you pass through gate one, and you have gate two or gate three or whatever, and you have men and women or whoever, children, whoever's shooting you with arrows, bullets, whatever. You're not going to make it through that gate. Your first 50, 60 men are dead before they even know what's going on.
Yeah,
And it's just like,
it's
uh,
the way that Edinburgh Castle was built is it was built as an impenetrable fortress.
exactly.
There is sieging that castle itself was near impossible.
And that's the only thing. Like, the only way to try to get them out is to siege it, because then you have to hopefully basically starve them to death or die of dehydration. That's all you had. You couldn't
Mm-hmm.
storm it. You just got to sit outside and hope that, well, maybe we'll starve them to death. Maybe we
That's
won't.
why the underground tunnels were started to begin with, because
Hmm.
somebody tried to do that.
Exactly. Because they knew how to get out, and people, we figure out a way, and like we said, it's so massive. I'm sure they had, crops, water, everything that they needed to stay and sustain up there for long periods of time, where you just outweight the other guy because the other guy has to wait for reinforcements and stuff from, his camp hundreds of miles away.
That
I
was
just
another reason why they placed it on the water
exactly
was so
gotta
that they could resupply easy. They would have that advantage of resupply from the water.
exactly. I mean, this is just,
It's pretty intense, to be honest.
it really is. It's insane. It's insane what these people did to, let's face it, to survive, to get through all of this. I mean, my gosh, I wish I could have seen some of the battles and some of the sieges there, because like we've said, there's so many things happening. People have said they've seen soldiers there. They've seen headless, like a headless boy. I mean, there's even been a woman that they found that was out in the street level, more outside those tunnels. She died in the street that leads up to this castle, but they didn't find her body for 21 years. So she had
Wow.
died, and no one knew until, I think they said they were doing construction or something, and then they stumbled upon her body. So she had been murdered there. So I mean, just the road going to it is even filled with murder and death. And so it's like, I don't know how you missed a body for 21 years, but yeah, that happens.
That's crazy. 21 years. How do you
Mhm.
not? The smell alone, I would think.
Exactly. That's why I'm like, I don't know where she was exactly. I was reading up on it, but they basically, um, it was a woman who, I forgot her name, but she was kind of like not nobility, but pretty high up. Was well respected, and then she started having an affair. Well, when she had the affair, they found out and was murdered, and I took them 21 years to find her body. And I'm like, wait, what? Like you said, the smell, like, how does no one notice it? I couldn't imagine that. Like, and then imagine, like, no one finds your body for 21 years. That spirit's got to be restless.
Seriously, that's crazy.
So
It's got
yeah,
to be
there's
angry at that point.
right, like 21 years, no one found my body. Like, come on, people. I just, it's insane. It really, really is. So, you know, we've kind of touched on the history. We've touched on some of the ghost stuff, and like we've said, there's a lot of sightings with this one. There's a lot of stories, I guess, folklore even, that come with this. But the one thing I haven't noticed, besides the 2001 investigation, there really hasn't been any ghost team, I believe, that's gone in and out of the castle. I think Ghost Adventures may have gone, but I don't know if they went throughout the entire castle or if they were just on the street level. But I don't know if anyone's done a full investigation on the entire castle. I mean, this seems huge too. I don't think a team can do it on their own.
Honestly, I have no idea. Like I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, and I was trying to look up like to see who did, and I want to say Ghost Adventures is the closest, but I think they only covered um like you had mentioned, some of those like vaults below. I think that's where they were. I don't think they were in the castle itself. But I mean, again, I would love to see somebody go and investigate this whole thing. Like, hey, we're gonna take like a week probably, but we're gonna investigate this whole castle, and
Yeah,
see what comes up.
they haven't really, anybody hasn't really done it, just that one doctor.
Yeah, and that was the
I don't
probably
know,
the biggest study.
um there was a scientists have begun serious investigations. This was back in 2001. This is the same investigation.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's the only one.
Yeah, like I said, I think Ghost Adventures came close by doing the tunnels, but I think that's it. I don't think they actually went up into the castle.
No, I don't think so either. I don't even see anything about Ghost Adventures.
Yeah. See, they went into Edinburgh vaults. That's what I was checking. So,
Edinburgh Colts, yeah.
yeah, so they were in the vault section of it, but that's it. And then I think it was this one too that is crazy. There's a cemetery for the dogs, I believe, in the middle of all of it. Which I'm like,
Wow.
yeah. So I guess that's from all the kings and queens and no, all the other nobility. And it's like, I wonder, like, is that haunted? Do you hear any animals maybe at some point that shouldn't be there? That'd be
You
interesting.
would definitely hear animals at some point.
Yeah, because it's like there's like this like little courtyard, and if you look at it, there's little tombstones for all the animals and stuff that have died there. So I'm like, that's interesting. But I don't know. So like, like I said, I want to keep these kind of short, so I want to kind of move to the next part.
Okay.
Um, do you think it's haunted? Let's say, because like, if we had the 2001 study, let's say Ghost Adventures went to the vaults, they didn't go to the castle. We haven't
Mhm.
had any other investigations. So what do you think?
I absolutely believe that it's haunted. I have no doubt in my mind that it is haunted. After everything that I've read and everything that the study in 2001 actually found, I fully believe that Edinburgh Castle is haunted.
Okay, interesting. Um, I think I'm going to agree with you on this one. I think the last time we talked, we didn't agree on it with one of our other previous locations, but
Mhm.
this one I think I agree. We have the bagpipe sound is weird, especially if you hear it in the middle of a city. If it's going through these tunnels and we hear these bagpipes from this little boy who died, this piper boy, that's interesting. But I always think where it's more of a gruesome death, you're probably going to have ghosts. And with the siege and the wars this castle has seen for the past 900 years or so, I mean, there's got to be something there. I really believe that, and with all these tourists and all the energy around, I'm sure some stuff will feed off of it, some stuff won't. But I mean, we have the Scottish Crown Jewels are there. We have, this little cemetery, like for the pets, like I said, we've had these people who've died. I kind of agree, especially with the Black Plague. I mean, that's,
The
kind
Black
of
Plague, anywhere that the Black Plague has touched, I guarantee you it has some kind of residual energy.
exactly. I mean, we talk about, right now we're in the middle of a pandemic still. So we talk about this whole COVID thing, we say, hey, lock down, stay tight. And we've already talked about the mentality or the mental state of people right now, because it's been about almost a year, or pushing a year,
Mm-hmm.
and how anxiety is high and all this. And I can only imagine having the Black Plague and probably even be more confined than somebody, now in the 2000s. Now at least we have technology to maybe contact people and talk to people. But I can imagine the Black Plague and you're sitting in a little room all by yourself, just randomly getting some meals here and there, maybe. Like,
The
that's
Black
insane.
Plague, the Black Plague is one of the biggest, most ugliest things that have ripped through the world, especially Europe. It
I
hit
mean,
Europe so hard.
yeah, it
And
almost
I fully
killed.
believe that it left behind a lot of residual energy. I think honestly that's right after the Black Plague was when witch mania hit, and it
Yeah,
hit hard. And I really think that the residual energy from the Black Plague is what actually pushed the witchcraft trials. You
Oh
know, the
yeah,
ones
I
that took
agree.
place in that, and that would actually be an interesting one as well.
Yeah, I that would be interesting to take a look at because yeah, there's been a lot, and like we said, the Black Plague hit here, it hit the wars hit here, everything. So I agree. I think this place could be haunted. I really do. I think that this one deserves a good, solid investigation from a good team of people. And so, we had a study on now 20 years ago. So maybe it's time for another team to go out there.
It looks like the Black Plague lasted about 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, and it killed, I believe, like two-thirds of the European population over there. I mean, there's cities that after the Black Plague hit were completely wiped off the map, and we didn't find them till World War One and Two when people were trying to clear trenches and pathways to Germany and other countries. It was like, wait, these cities are here, and they realized, well, the Black Plague killed everybody, so
Yep.
they want to take care of them. So Mother Nature took back over on those.
Yeah, and
Um,
to know that this happened, that these people were locked into these vaults under Edinburgh Castle, that's that's pretty major.
yeah, exactly.
That had to have left some kind of residual energy behind.
Exactly. No, I agree 100% with you on that one. So guys, let us know what you think in the comments below. Is Edinburgh Castle haunted? Let us know if we missed anything major that you may have heard or seen. Maybe if you have some pictures, drop them below of the castle. Let us know what you think it looks like, or if you've seen any ghost pictures or anything. It'd be really cool to check those out. Um,
Absolutely. I always like looking at pictures of Edinburgh Castle. Like,
oh yes. Let us know below and subscribe for more stories like this and more investigations on this channel. We try to do an investigation every week, so go check all of those out that are uploaded. Until next time, guys, this is Aaron, that's Victoria, and y'all have a great night, and keep the paranormal stuff coming.
okay, bye bye.